31 BC, in the Ionian Sea, the two most powerful forces in the world confronted each other. On one side stood Antonius, the legendary general of Caesar, fighting alongside Queen Cleopatra of Egypt. On the other side was Gaius Octavianus, Caesar's heir, representing Rome. But amid the chaos of Actium, the one truly in control was not Octavianus. It was Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa, admiral, strategist, and the closest friend of the future emperor. He was not the one who sat upon the throne, but he was the man who laid its foundation. Without Agrippa, there would be no Augustus. And without Augustus, there would be no Roman Empire as we know it today. "20 years before Actium, Rome had fallen into chaos. In 44 BC, Julius Caesar, conqueror of Gaul and master of the Republic's destiny, was assassinated in the Senate. Caesar's death was a thunderbolt from a clear sky. It split Rome in two. One half sought to preserve the Republic, the other sought absolute power once more. And in the distant land of Apollonia, two young men received the grim news: Gaius Octavianus, Caesar's adopted son and heir, and Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa, the son of a commoner and Octavianus's closest companion. Agrippa had no noble blood, but he possessed what Octavianus lacked: iron will, practical mind, and unshakable loyalty. Cassius Dio wrote that when they heard of Caesar's death, Agrippa was the first to urge Octavianus to return to Rome, not for revenge, but to restore order. From that moment, an oath was born between them. One will unite Rome, the other will protect that dream. It was not merely friendship, it was a bond of life and death. When civil war erupted, Agrippa was always at the front lines. At Philippi, he commanded the cavalry, paving the way for Octavianus to defeat Brutus and Cassius, Caesar's assassins. From then on, Octavianus became the rightful heir of Rome, but Rome was still restless. After Caesar's death, three men divided the empire: Octavianus, Antonius, and Lepidus, the triumvirate in a shattered Rome. Among these ambitious men, only Agrippa sought no power for himself. He chose to be the instrument of peace, and to achieve that, he was willing to sacrifice everything. After Antony seized Egypt, the fleet of Sextus Pompeius, son of Pompey the Great, controlled the Tyrrhenian Sea, cutting off Rome's grain supply. The empire faced famine. Octavianus suffered defeat after defeat. But Agrippa did not complain. He turned his engineering skills into weapons. In 37 BC, Agrippa directed the construction of Portus Julius, a canal linking Lakes Avernus and Lucrinus to the sea, creating Rome's first hidden naval base in history. It was not only a feat of engineering, but of strategic vision. Rome would no longer depend on luck, but on innovation. The soldiers called him the man who built a harbor from land, and from that base, he launched his decisive blow, the Battle of Naulochus. Sextus Pompeius had massive, faster, and stronger ships. Agrippa knew he could not win by speed, so he invented a new weapon, the harpax. An iron grappling hook fired by a ballista, used to pull enemy ships close. He turned the sea into a battlefield of infantry. Within hours, 300 enemy ships were sunk. Rome was freed from famine, and Octavianus regained control of the seas. The Senate awarded Agrippa a triumph, but he refused. According to Suetonius, he said, "My glory is that Rome is at peace." Another general might have used that victory to seize power. Agrippa did not. He chose silence, to preserve his friend's trust. When the civil war quieted, Agrippa was sent west. In Gaul and Hispania, he suppressed rebellions, conducted censuses, and organized infrastructure. Cassius Dio recorded that he brought order to lands once filled with forests and chaos. Agrippa was not only a strategist, he understood that victory was meaningless if it did not become foundation. The roads, bridges, and cities he built still stand thousands of years later. He expanded Rome not only with swords, but with architecture and governance. 31 BC. In the storm of civil war, Rome stood at the brink of collapse. Marcus Antonius and Cleopatra, with over 500 massive warships, gathered in the Bay of Actium, ready to crush Gaius Octavianus and his dream of uniting Rome. Octavianus, though Caesar's heir, was no soldier. Facing the mighty fleet of Antony, he realized he needed someone who could alter destiny. Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa, his childhood companion who had saved Rome from chaos many times. But at that moment, Agrippa was in Rome, overseeing great projects, aqueducts, temples, and public works, shaping a stable empire. He sought no glory, only to build a lasting Rome with his hands and mind. Yet when word reached him of Antony and Cleopatra's colossal armada, urgency struck. Octavianus sent an appeal, summoning Agrippa from stone and water back to the stormy sea. Without hesitation, Agrippa answered, bringing with him unmatched strategic brilliance. Agrippa did not face Antony's giant ships head-on. Instead, he cast a net of strategy, cutting off enemy supply lines, seizing Methone and Leucas, two critical ports. Antony's army, isolated and starving, was forced to abandon the bay. On September 2nd, 31 BC, the fleets clashed on the Ionian Sea. Antony relied on size and might, but Agrippa, ever the tactician, deployed light, agile ships that harnessed the sea wind to encircle the enemy like a pack of wolves. His smaller vessels sliced through Antony's formations, turning their bulk into fatal weakness.
For Rome! Hold the line! Push them back to the sea! Advance! Push them back to the sea!
Agrippa's calm gaze and iron will closed the trap. Antony's ships burned, black smoke rising over the Ionian sky. The Battle of Actium ended, not just Antony's defeat, but the death of the Roman Republic. Octavianus, through this victory, wore the laurel wreath and became Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. Behind him, Agrippa stands silent, his gaze serene, claiming no glory. History remembers Augustus, but it was Agrippa who left his great works to return to war, who turned the dream of a united Rome into reality, the true soul of victory. As the empire turned to peace, Agrippa traded sword for measure. He was appointed aedile, overseer of infrastructure and public works. Rome, after decades of civil war, lay in ruins. Agrippa began rebuilding from the simplest things: sewers, roads, aqueducts. He built the Aqua Virgo, a 20-kilometer aqueduct still in use today. He opened the Baths of Agrippa, the first in history to welcome the public for free. Suetonius wrote that he made Rome cleaner and more livable than anyone before him. But his greatest masterpiece was the Pantheon, the temple of all gods. Its massive dome, even millennia later, still astonishes architects. When he inscribed his name on his front, it was not vanity. It was a reminder. I did not build for myself. I built for Rome. In 12 BC, Agrippa died suddenly at age 51. Augustus, then the greatest emperor of Rome, wept bitterly. According to Cassius Dio, he said, "I have lost half my soul." Augustus personally arranged his funeral, entombing Agrippa in the imperial mausoleum beside himself, an honor never granted to anyone of non-noble blood. More than 2,000 years later, Rome still stands. Its roads, bridges, aqueducts, baths, and the Pantheon endure. These works speak for the man, strong, humble, and enduring as marble. Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa, military genius, engineer, architect of peace, the man who chose to live in the shadows so that an empire could shine in the light. Glory needs no throne,